Hi there, welcome back. I am actually going to go over real time strategy games and education in this episode. So, I found out that my screen capture software doesn't actually screen capture these games, so I am going to be using YouTube to explain them. Now, real time strategy games actually have an extreme benefit when introducing it to the classroom. They could be used as support or as a lesson themselves. So, with real time strategy games, what it is that you have to build your own community and keep it going and achieve specific goals. Now, each game is different. I'm going to show you two games that I use. The reason why I'm showing you these two games is number one, they're inexpensive. And number two, they don't require too much of your computer. So they will run on most on most computers without really, draining the energy out of it. So the first one I'm going to start with is called Settler 7. Now, the basic concept of the game is that you have a small kingdom and you need to start expanding. Now you have to make sure that you have enough resources for your village, as well as you need to find resources and create new technologies and discover it. So what it does is it covers economics as well as resources, how they're made, and going forward, it touches on some warfare, but it's not as intense. So I'm going to play this small video that is online, as you can see here on YouTube. So let me just full screen it, and here you go.
Initially, I figured I'd be able to review Settlers 7 in the course of a few days' worth of solid gameplay. How wrong I was. At first glance of the campaign missions, the game seemed very simplistic, perhaps even to the point of being slightly boring. But as you progress, you see that there are so many hidden complexities. The basic gist of the game seemed to be build a castle, build a farm, hire a baker, use your military to take over neutral ground, and eventually your opponents. But in reality, that isn't even a fraction of what Settler 7 is all about. Each mission unfolds new features and options. Fortunately, the gameplay mechanics are easily retainable. The campaigns start off slowly, sometimes a little too slowly, but I cannot stress enough how important I feel it is to complete the single player campaigns before moving on to the multiplayer games, or playing full rounds against the AI. The more I play, the more I learn, and the more complex the game becomes. But the more complex it becomes, the more enjoyable it also becomes. Settlers 7 is a maze of assembly lines and branches of employ, side quests, rewards, and achievement unlocks. As an example of the production chains, to build a single sword, which is required by your military, you need to mine coal and iron ore, build a smelter to create refined iron, build a blacksmith who will require both wood and refined iron in order to produce the sword. So this means that you also need a forester out there collecting wood, and each of these tasks require its own building. Each building adds another residence to your population. Now you need to build housing and provide food. To provide food, you need to build farms, grain barns, windmills, bring in some hunters and fishermen, build a bakery, brewery, and butcher. All of this is needed to produce that single sword. And that's assuming that the land you own can even accommodate your needs. Because in order to build a farm, the land has to be fertile. Not all plots of land have animals to hunt or fish to be caught. So it may sound a bit overwhelming, but it's not. The biggest issue is watching your supply and demand. If you run out of food and have no fertile land to grow on, then you can't hire military since they need to be fed. And you need the military to take over more land. Running out of even a single resource can mean your demise. Here you can see my constructors. You start.
All right, I'm just going to stop it there. So it's a fantastic review about production chains, and it just embodies everything that I just explained. So it's a great game to introduce production chains, the balance of economies as well. Now there is another game called Age of Empires, which is a bit older. This one definitely concentrates more on militaristic takeovers, and it is actually based on real life. So most of the campaigns, I'm using air quotes even though you can't see it, will cover settling the New World with the Spanish, the English, and and New England. So this is just a little section too, and he's just going to explain it as well.
Now, it's quite weird. I was playing in moderate, and I can only ever play fast or play it slow. I was actually playing on moderate, so it's kind of hard to describe what I'm doing as I was doing it. But as you can see, I've built some units here. I've built a mill so to collect food, And I've also just been given an outpost, which is like an anti-infantry tower. It's pretty self-explanatory there. And I've got one person on mine. And have I got any people on the trees yet? Not quite yet. So, yeah, fairly basic setup so far. I've just got into the second stage. As you can see here, I'm building 2 barracks and 2 stables. Now, a barracks is an infantry training facility, and stables is a cavalry training facility. Now, the reason why I've built 2 of each is because when you build a unit, the most you can build at any one time is 5. So you can press shift click, which will build 5 units at any one time. But if I have 2, I can build 10 at one time, and then it'll go on to the next 10, and the next 10, and the next 10. You'll see it a bit more when I have queues of training happening, but yeah, it's yeah, having 2 is a lot easier than having 1. So I could have had 3. I really could. You know, I've got the resources to do it. The tactic I was going for in this gameplay, you know, if you play, I don't want to say professionally, but if you play to a competitive manner, it's good to have a strategy in place already before you start playing. And my strategy was what I like to call quick army. So I build a very weak but large army as soon as possible, and then once I've got an army, I'm going to go down there, create as much havoc as possible, and possibly win the match. Now, this is a high-risk tactic, and it can either go really well or really badly. It's quite interesting. I'm not going to tell you what happens because I think it's quite exciting to see how everything pans out. But yeah, it was interesting nonetheless. So yeah, I'm just building more houses, right?
All right, so as you can see that he has his own tactic with how to deploy his army. So this is actually beneficial for your students in order to understand that every time any sort of warfare would have happened, it does involve a certain amount of tactical response. So that's it for real-time strategy games and education. I will be posting more information on this in the coming future. Until then, please feel free to leave any comments or any concerns in the comment box. Have a great day.